There are a ton of mistakes you can make as a service provider who is using their client contract to do business, but the one I'm going to touch on in this video is the top mistake that you want to avoid. So keep listening so you make sure you're not making this mistake right now. And if you are, that's totally okay. At least you know so you can fix it. My name is Liku Amadi, founder and attorney of Anasa Law Firm, where I work with consultants, coaches, and expert service providers to help them establish a solid legal foundation for business. And one of the main things I talk about is client contracts. Why? Because your clients are your money makers, right? You need them to bring in revenue, and you, as a service provider, it is your responsibility to have a client contract that you give your client so that the both of you are agreeing to be on the same page. You lay down the rules, the boundaries, the expectations, and most of all, you explain what you're going to do for them in exchange for them investing in you. And the biggest mistake that you can make when it comes to your client contracts is what you can do, right? It's about what you are providing, the service that you are providing. And if your service does not align with your client contract, you are making the biggest mistake. You're making the biggest mistake. The reason why is because your client contract is supposed to be that piece that brings you and your client together, right? And its primary purpose is to protect you. That's why we want contracts in place, right? Because we want to make sure we're protected. We want to make sure we don't get sued. Somebody's giving us 5, 10, 15, 25, $50,000 to execute a service. We want to make sure we secure the bag and keep the bag secured, right? We don't want to give up that money. We don't want disputes. We don't want potential lawsuits. We don't want any trouble, which is why people want to have contracts in place in the first place, is to avoid trouble, is to stay protected. However, your contract cannot protect you if it doesn't align with your service. Your contract cannot protect you if it doesn't take into consideration the actual thing that you're doing, right? And this may sound like a no brainer, but so many service providers make the mistake of using a contract that has not been aligned with their service. And what that means is their service and what they do in their service has not been taken into consideration so that the contract terms can protect whatever it is that you're doing, right? That's what I mean by align. So let's go through a few examples. One of my favorite examples is using private coaching or like one-on-one coaching and group coaching. A lot of people use the same contracts. In fact, I already have a live that talks about the difference between the two and why you shouldn't use the same contract. But anyway, a lot of people use the same contract, and a huge fault about that is if you have a one-on-one coaching program, you take the service out of the contract, you're like, let's delete section 2, right? And you insert your group coaching program, you're like, boom, this looks good. It does not look good because you cannot be sure whether your contract is ready to serve and protect you for that group coaching program that you have the way that it would for the one-on-one agreement. Why? Because it's not in alignment. The confidentiality, for example, that you would talk about in your contract when it comes to you and one other client is completely different than the confidentiality that you would have in your contract when it comes to you facilitating a group of clients, right? There's the one-to-one aspect where you're talking directly to an individual or a client in that group. There's an aspect of you receiving information from multiple group members at one time. There's the aspect of group members communicating among each other. And because you are the facilitator of that group, you bear some type of responsibility to make sure that those contents and those conversations stay confidential, right? There's an aspect of them discussing sensitive information, intellectual property, things that should be covered under NDAs, right? And again, you are facilitating. So there are extra levels of confidentiality when it comes to doing a group program versus one-on-one. That means that that contract for the group program should cover those extra aspects of confidentiality, right? And the one-on-one contract normally wouldn't cover that because it doesn't matter. It's not triggered in that scenario. And that's just one example of how a different service in the same contract could, when it's not aligned, could really mess you up and bring you to a point where you're taking unnecessary risks with people's sensitive and confidential information when you really don't have to, when you can have contract terms that protect you. It's almost like you have a big brother or a big cousin whose suit that you borrowed for prom, except they're 6 inches taller than you, they're 75 pounds. They weigh 75 pounds more than you, and you're going to prom looking crazy because, yeah, you have a suit. You're supposed to wear a suit to prom. You brought one, you put it on, got the glasses on, got the cologne, but you're looking crazy because the suit isn't aligned to who you are. The suit doesn't fit who you are. Just like a contract needs to fit your service, whatever it is that you're providing or doing for your client, to protect you. If you want to be protected, you need to make sure that the details in what you do are reflected in your contract. Another example is communication, right? If you have communication terms that require you to talk to multiple people, let's say in a consulting environment where you're working among a team, or you're working with a team and there are various deliverables, you need to be able to communicate with certain people to execute your services. That should be in the contract. It shouldn't just be a plain communication statement about, hey, communicate with me via email between the hours of 9 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? There should be a little more detail because those communication terms are going to make it so that the work gets done in a timely manner, so that communication is happening as seamlessly as possible, and so that you can do what you're supposed to do in order for the client to get the return on their investment, right? You need to be able to align your contract terms with your services. When you don't, it opens you up to risk. If you don't have a way to manage those multiple lanes of communication and the work isn't getting done on time, the consulting project is being delayed, there's consistent miscommunications, that impacts the quality of the service, and that could impact deadlines or other detrimental aspects related to whatever it is, whatever service it is that you are providing. If you don't have confidentiality terms that reflect the group coaching component versus just the one-on-one coaching component and the services that you offer, you open your business up to risk when it comes to keeping people's information confidential, when it comes to intellectual property protection, when it comes to just facilitating communications among various other individuals who represent other businesses, right? You want to make sure your contract terms are in alignment with the service you are providing. It doesn't help you to just have any old contract. It doesn't help you to just copy and paste a confidentiality clause from over here, or an intellectual property clause from over there, a dispute resolution clause from over there, an arbitration clause from over there, a payment plan clause from someone else, right? That doesn't help you if it doesn't reflect what you're doing, if it doesn't fit your services and how you facilitate your services. It doesn't help you to just use a colleague's contract and substitute things in and out. I totally get it. You're trying to make sure you have a contract in place. You're trying to make sure you are doing the right thing. You're savvy enough as a business owner to know that you can't keep going into client relationships without a good contract. So you're trying to create one that protects you. And that is amazing. Kudos to you. The reality is that you need to make sure it's protecting you, and you can't do that without your contract terms being in alignment with that service. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? If you have a client contract that is in alignment with your services, it has been reviewed by an attorney, you have taken time to talk about what you do and make sure it's reflected in your terms, that is amazing. Continue to review your contract as you update your services, as you update and change things in your business. You always want to make sure your contract is updated with that. If you are not on that page and you've been using a contract that's been pieced together, or something that you've grabbed from Google, or a template that's outdated, or something maybe you got from an attorney a while ago, and your services and your business have changed since then you want to talk to me, you want to talk to another attorney, so you can ensure that your services are in alignment with those terms. Because again, if you have a contract in place, it's more than likely that you put it in place because you want it to protect you, and it is not protecting you if you are making the number one mistake, which is not having your contract terms in alignment with your services. Somewhere in these comments or in this content, I'm going to leave a link where I talk about 7 other client contract mistakes that you want to avoid, mistakes that put your business at risk unnecessarily, but more importantly, how you can fix those mistakes. Because the first step is being aware of what you even have going on in your contract. And the second step is making sure that you do something to fix those things, so that when you go out there and get more clients, when you go out there and get more money, when you get more business, when your business starts to boom the way you want it to, you want to feel confident and secure that that main contract that you need to secure relationships with your clients is intact and actually protects you. That is what I have for y'all today. Check out the complimentary resource, and make sure you get your ducks in a row when it comes to your client contracts. Talk to y'all later.